Okay, we are at the end of November 2021, and last night, as it happens when I'm recording this, November 28th, we had the first in a very long time in-person meeting of Living with Intention. And we are on this pilgrimage together. Also, it was virtual insofar as some people zoomed in. But it was good to be together with each other in person, those of us who were able to do that. And the topic for the evening was, as you may know if you're following in the sequence here, looking at discipline number 9, which is the framework for creative conflict resolution, otherwise known as just conflict, in which we, in the context of a relationship we have with somebody who's important to us, we notice a certain persistent pattern of conflict, and it's a big enough issue that we want to be able to address it. And so the question is, okay, what am I going to do? And we're all dealing with different conflicts, but a couple of them that were very similar that came up that I think are important for us to kind of look at closely is the circumstances when an adult child or semi-adult child is behaving disrespectfully towards ourselves. And this is something that it's the interplay of two very complex systems. One has to do with how do we do this thing we call setting boundaries. I'm going to set a boundary with somebody. And how do we deal with the fact that our adult children are now in a very different kind of relationship with us than they were when they were little kids? So how am I going to deal with this? So I want to just give you some theoretical pieces here, and we're going to come back to deal with the specifics with each other when we get together next Sunday. But first of all, setting boundaries. Normally, when we talk about setting a boundary, what we're talking about is letting the other person know that that behavior is unacceptable, and if you do that again, there are going to be some consequences. And so I want you, don't cross that line because, bad stuff's going to happen. Now, we can pretty well get away with that when our kids are young, but when they get older, they no longer give us authority. The only time it works to set a boundary in that sense is if the other person says that we have the authority to tell them what to do. And there are very few relationships in which that's the case. So setting a boundary is not so much about setting their boundary as it is about setting our own boundary. That is, there's this thing that happens, and when it happens, oh yeah, there's that thing again. What is it that I'm going to do differently when that happens? That is a boundary, that is a trigger for me. That is something that an alarm bell that says, ouch, oh, how am I going to deal with that? The chances of me coming up with a better way of dealing with it on the fly are somewhere between 0 and none. None of us is that sharp. But since it happens over and over again, the good news is we're going to get lots of opportunities to practice. So what I want to practice is, what am I going to do when that happens? How am I going to show up in a way that actually moves me towards what I need? The problem with that is that when I do that, the other person's not necessarily going to be happy about that. They're not going to like that. And when this is my child, this is somebody really important to me. This is somebody who's going through their own stuff, maybe is freaked out about it. I don't need to be another source of stress in their lives when they're already stressed out. And so I want to try to fix it. I want to soothe it. And if I find a new way of being, they're not going to find that soothing. So the relationship that I used to have, the relationship they used to have with them for most of their lives is no longer relevant. And that's not the relationship they're choosing to have with me. But that's the choice. That's the relationship I had with them when things got tense. I was someone who could step in and say, okay, this is the way it's going to be. It doesn't work anymore. And now if I do that, when they're already stressed, I'm going to look like the bad guy. And I don't want to be alienated from them. So if I set a boundary with them, I'm going to lose whatever relationship we have at the moment, and I'm going to feel even more alienated. So what do I do? Placate, ignore it? How am I going to deal with this? The essential piece, and as I said, we'll come back to this next Sunday, the essential piece is recognizing that the most powerful bond, the unbreakable connection, mostly unbreakable connection, is between parent and child. They can't go out and find a new parent. As long as we remain available to them in a loving, supportive way, the relationship's going to be there. The only reason they're going to cut us off is if we behave in a way that's consistently abusive to them. And even then, sometimes they'll come back. So, as long as what we're doing is, in fact, creating what they need, we're mindful of that, we can create what we need. And in fact, we are modeling for them a new way of being that then they can try on. So we can just sort of soothe our own fear about what am I going to do to this relationship, and in fact show up in a way in which we speak the helpful truth. What that truth is depends upon the situation, and that's what we're going to work on next Sunday. So I hope you'll be able to join us.